Okay, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the November 5th, 2024 Community Services Committee meeting to order. Before we get further into the meeting agenda, I'd like to read the section 8.8 of the Procedural Bylaw as a reminder to all committee members, staff, and members of the public. Meetings will maintain a welcome, inclusive atmosphere at all times, regardless of any individual's perspective. All participants shall be treated with respect and courtesy, and the following rules of decorum shall apply to meetings. All participants are responsible for maintaining an orderly meeting, free from indecent or insulting language, name-calling, assigning blame, personal attacks, or condemning the motive of others. No participant shall engage in disruptive or distracting behavior in such manner as to interrupt the meeting in any manner. No member of the public may debate with staff or make derogatory remarks to staff. No participant shall interrupt or distract a person who has the floor. Any member may interrupt only to raise a point of order. Any participant persisting in a breach of decorum will receive a warning from the chair. Continued breach may result in the microphones being turned off and or the participant being asked to leave the meeting. We will move on to the land acknowledgement. Grimsby is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in this rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattawandirack, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The regional municipality of Niagara and Grimsby stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest? No. Can I have a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda? Okay, moved by Councillor Howe, seconded by Councillor DeFlavio. And I'm going to ask our clerk just to provide an amendment to the agenda.
I would like to introduce an amendment to the agenda to lift report DCS-24-25 or 24-54 Mayfair Pickleball Courts update for discussion directly following item 6.2.
Okay, resolved that the November 5th, 2024 Community Services Committee agenda be approved as amended. All in favor? That's carried. Receipt of previous minutes. Can I have a mover and a seconder to receive the following advisory committee meeting minutes? Moved by Member Laird, seconded by Councillor Howe. Resolved that the advisory committee meeting minutes be received. Art Gallery Special Purpose Advisory Committee meeting, Art Gallery Special Purpose Advisory Committee, October 1st, 2024, and Age Friendly Advisory Committee, October 15th, 2024. All in favor? Okay, that is carried. Moving on to item number 6, delegations. Tonight we have 2 delegations. The first is from Paul Demare on behalf of the Grimsby Pickleball Association. Paul Demare, can you please come to the podium?
All set? You hear me all?
All set.
All right. Good evening, councillors and members of the Community Services Committee and pickleballers. My name is Paul Demare from Grimsby, and I'm the treasurer of Grimsby Pickleball Association. I'm joined with Monica Semenchuk, VP of GPA, and we thank you for allowing us to present our story. In the July Community Services meeting, there was a presentation by Mr. David Kelly representing GRFPP, which probably isn't representative of the support or its community, and provided various incorrect statements. This presentation provides a more factual story about pickleball and the town of Grimsby, which is more reflective of the fast-growing sport in Canada, which it is, and within our pickleball communities. The first slide, please, yeah. So, in 2020, several Grimsby residents coordinated with Parks and Recs to offer pickleball play at the Freeze Box here. This group set up and took down nets and scheduled play for all players. The group negotiated indoor play with Grimsby YMCA and more pickleball time for more members during that fall and winter period. GPA was formed as an association with a very small board. From the start, GPA has worked with Grimsby Parks and Rec, and the joint goal of expanding pickleball, and GPA provided sport and court information for the town for the construction of the Mayfair courts. GPA was allowed to use Mayfair courts subject to town requirements, and GPA provided additional information on the GPA website to residents about pickleball and how they can learn and enjoy the sport. GPA and the dedicated volunteers who have trained more than 175 people in the introduction to pickleball courses, which offered to the community to facilitate the growth of pickleball in our community. Next slide, please. The Ontario Pickleball Association has been at the forefront of working with municipalities to grow pickleball through creating local associations. GPA was created with the support of OPA and the town. GPA needed additional court space to support long waiting lists of people waiting to join. Additional court time was requested, and the town approved with requirements of accepting only local residents off wait lists. GPA does not have control of Mayfair courts, but works with Town Parks and Rec Department to facilitate effective GPA court usage by facilitating maximum usage with court scheduling for play. GPA charges $80, that's $80 annually for scheduled play, reserved court times, social events, instruction for members, and always one public court, and sometimes GPA courts are available for public at no cost, no charge, and no residency limits. GPA members are required to pay $10 each to Ontario Pickleball and Pickleball Canada for insurance and other benefits to protect this and assist members in playing and learning the sport. The current model for the use of public recreational space in Grimsby is a rental fee paid to the town of Grimsby. GPA pays $15 per member and does maintain all the courts, including the public. Members are also Grimsby taxpayers. Next slide, please. Now, GPA follows court rules set out and posted by the town, and GPA has no authority to manage these rules. There is not sufficient court space for demand. GPA is only scheduling court time to allow for fair access for members. GPA members are asked to attend an annual meeting each year where financial details are provided, where the board meets regularly to discuss issues, finances, and regularly communicates that to the members. GPA membership was surveyed recently about the value of GPA membership, and 88% were very satisfied. And Moni will speak about it more in depth later. GPA provides ongoing information about the association via membership page on GPA website and through the regular postings of Team Reach and through emails to each member. Regular court maintenance is done by GPA, as I mentioned. The town opens and closes the courts, but we, as GPA members, purchase all the court maintenance tools and do all the work to make sure that the courts are in good shape. We also provided financial assistance on the seatings, bench seating, and the bicycle racks around the court. Financial details are not made public to non-members. GPA is not a registered nonprofit association. However, information is always available to members. Next slide, please. Now, here's the members out there cleaning the courts. The only court cleaning is from GPA members. Those leaves are a hazard for not only for the damage to the court, but also slipping and falling. We make sure it's always clean. Next slide, please. This is a GPA expense. This is what we spend our money on. Indoor courts, 32%. Operating costs for equipment and software, 22%. Events and donations, 16%. Training clinics, 11%. Town rentals and charge, 19%. Our budget is $23,000. Now over to Moni to make the next presentation, and hopefully you all have a good, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. So just a little bit more information to share. If you can go to the next slide, please. Oh, sorry, it's right there. So every year we survey our members. We ask some key questions. I just have a few things that I want to share on behalf of GPA. And one of the things that we ask about is times and schedules. How well do we meet the needs of our members? 88% answered very or mostly satisfied. This survey was done in June this year. That's when we closed it. Also, how well is GPA meeting your needs? 87%, very, mostly satisfied. So we took that as a very strong, positive feedback. So we also gave some opportunity for open feedback, and the most frequent thing that came back was more courts, more time to play was what people were looking for. And Paul spoke a little bit about our wait list. We had been running the intro to pickleball clinics. The Parks and Rec asked us to host some of those. We had 2 volunteers that led those sessions. 175 people went through those clinics. And as a result, our wait list grew, and we lobbied for the 3rd court. And as a result of that, working with Parks and Rec and Sarah and Trevor, we kind of came to an agreement, and they said, okay, as long as you open up your membership, allow more members, we'll work with you on the 3rd court. The one stipulation was those new members had to be residents of Grimsby only. So there was a stipulation there. Okay. That was the 3rd court and how that came to pass. Okay, next slide, please. Another piece of feedback, looking for more times in the daytime, mornings. Not all of our members work, so we did a lot in the evenings initially. And so we went ahead and added many things. Ladies and men's events, clinics, skills and drills on Wednesdays and alternating evenings. So just trying to put as many opportunities for people to drop in, show up and play. You don't have to bring your own 4 people every time. Really trying to make it easy for people to come out and play. So next slide, please. Okay, the 3rd thing that was the most common or frequent was tournaments for development. We all want to get better. So we've made some changes there too, added a men's ladder, ladies leagues, date nights, and we also pretty much monthly run a social event for all of our members. It's about fun and community, people getting to know each other. So, and we also always identify a local charity that we will partner with. So this year we worked with GBF and we worked with Jillian's Place. Our members, a lot of them are here, very, very supportive. We always want to give back to community, and it's been great. So we're very proud of that, and I think our members really enjoy those events. Next slide, please. Okay, so I just got a couple more things to talk about. So we went and did some research for other municipalities that are similar size to Grimsby, and we were just trying to understand how are other people's municipalities managing this. So I'll show you a table in a second. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but for the municipalities that we've looked at, all of them charge a rental fee for public use. For drop-ins, clubs, and associations, there's always a fee based on our research. Only Grimsby provides free public use with no residency requirements for the public. And if you go to the next slide, please. So this is the table. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I'd like to draw your attention to a couple of things. The municipalities are on the far left, the first column, and then you'll see the number of outdoor courts in the second column. And one of the things that we wanted to investigate and understand was how much time is allocated for public access for some of the other municipalities. And for example, Niagara-on-the-Lake had the lowest amount. They have 6 outdoor courts. 15% of the allocated time is for public. And the highest one we found was Mono. They also have 6 outdoor courts. 48% of their allocated time is for public access. And Grimsby is not far behind there. We're sitting at 37% with 4 outdoor courts right now. The one thing that's different in Grimsby is there's always 1 court available for the public. So that stood out. All of these municipalities also require people to be residents of those municipalities. And the way they do that, for example, Pelham is one. It's $100 to play, another $50 for a fob, which basically gets you in and out of the gate. I'm going to be really short. I'll be fast. So that's how they do that. There's also a $5 charge if the public is going to drop in and play. And And then the only other thing I wanted to highlight is in Grimsby, there is no restriction on who can come and play on the public courts. We know people come from Oakville, they come from Hamilton, they come from St. Catharines. A lot of those people don't honor the 30 minutes if there's people waiting. So no restrictions. Everybody else has restrictions. Last thing, if you go to the last slide. So our mission at GPA is to grow the game of pickleball with an inclusive, collaborative, and welcoming approach. And this has been our motto from day one. All of our decisions, all of our initiatives, all of the actions we take are basically based on that and building community with our membership and the community we all live in. So just want to highlight that. That's what we're all about. And we'd like to thank you for your interest and attention tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. If you could just remain at the podium for 1 minute, please. Are there any questions from our committee for the delegate? No? Okay. Can I have a mover and a seconder to receive the delegation? Okay, moved by Councillor Howe, seconded by Member Brabant. Resolved that the delegation from Paul Demare be received. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Our second delegation is from Laura Sire and Ann Orlando on behalf of the Grimsby residents for fair pickleball play. Laura and Ann, if you could please come to the podium, please.
Good evening, council members, town staff, and other interested residents. My name is Laura Sire, and I'm here with Ann Orlando. We're part of a group that organized Grimsby residents for fair pickleball play to represent the interest of pickleball players who were dissatisfied with the 2024 options for pickleball play at Mayfair. The group expanded to include representation from the LEC players and for others who felt they had no voice for pickleball decisions in Grimsby and nowhere to play. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak this evening, and I'm grateful that the CAO, Sarah Kim, asked me in early September to be the voice for the residents as the town had received several communications from dissatisfied pickleball players and residents. At that point, they wanted to prepare their survey, but they had a lot of time that they had to spend on responding or reading email communications, so I was quite honored to take on that role. The town heard our plea that without a membership group advocating for court usage, we needed to be heard. And I thank Sarah Sweeney for welcoming us to the table. Through various discussions, the town agreed that it would be best to gather residents' input by preparing via a third party a survey. This is a topic that we want to focus on this evening. As a CPA CA and certified internal auditor, along with my teaching and research work at the University of Waterloo, I felt that I could provide valuable insight. I have a particular interest in surveys, as I was one of the professors asked to sit on a committee to prepare a survey for CPA Canada that would guide the future profession of CPAs. I had to complete, of course, the necessary training through the panel of research ethics. And I worked closely with the project manager, Survey Research Center at U of W. Very top of mind for any responsibilities that I take on, either in a professional setting or personal, is my ability to identify any potential conflicts of interest. And of course, with any survey, recognizing or being advised on any biases or potential biases. Surveys should be prepared, administered, and interpreted without any bias and following proper ethics. Sarah did allow a few members of our group to discuss preliminary survey contents as she did with other selected groups. Sarah expressed a concern she had heard about ballot stuffing or guiding respondents. She wanted this avoided, and we could not agree more. On September 29th, 2024, I received an email from Trevor with a copy to Sarah notifying me that the survey was available. In that email, Trevor wrote in reference to sharing the survey, just to use the link, and not with any guiding information. I could not agree more and confirm that back to him in an email response. Well, late last week, we were alerted to the fact that the GPA was making a presentation this evening. We understood it was about them, which makes sense. We could only imagine not having seen the presentation until late this morning, and now having proven correctly that it would be about them and their story. In fact, I think I heard them actually use the word story, coincidentally. I don't think any, I'm sorry? Oh, sorry. I don't think any organization granted 3 of the 4 resident resident paid-for courts representing and presenting to town council tonight would do otherwise. But why tonight? Why just a couple of days after the end of the pickleball season? Was it that urgent? In fact, the town was dismantling the courts just yesterday. Why not give the GPA their opportunity to present just 3 weeks? I mean, I think your next meeting is November 26th, like clearly after the November 15 survey deadline. I'm not going to read survey questions as to respect its contents, but I have them available if the council members want me to reference specific questions. But rest assured that the preamble to the survey discusses why GPA was formed, sounds very good, and why they were allocated extra courts. Perhaps if the survey preparers added the additional information, then why not add facts about their wait list or about any new non-Grimsby members? Does this preamble already present a biased viewpoint? This information is obviously available elsewhere, so why let respondents know about this resident-led community group offering? Anyways, I'll leave that at that. Let's move on to the questions. Again, in the interest of the integrity of the survey, if the integrity still exists, there are 4 questions that specifically allow respondents to select the membership group as an option. Why is a specific group even an option? There's only one membership group based on who does league play, so we'll know who that survey is referencing. But let's just imagine for a moment that you're at the local grocery store in the pop or soda, heck, US election, let's use soda, and chips aisle. I know the chips I like, but I never have had a glass of pop. Well, I have, but let's just assume for the example. And I'm given 2 options, Pepsi or Coke. I know little about either, but Googled Pepsi and found a 13-page PowerPoint slide deck about the Pepsi company and all the positive benefits of drinking Pepsi. I could not find any presentation on Coke. I did overhear another customer standing beside me who likely listened along with me that the information in the Pepsi slide deck might not be exactly all that it says. Well, I need to pick one, so I'm taking customer space in this pop aisle. Might as well select Pepsi. I don't really know my options. Next survey question. My point is that allowing GPA to present tonight that they have a very or mostly satisfied response, we've heard that, have made positive changes and even have date nights. Well, could that bias respondents? This clearly promotes their club. None of this information was so urgent, it had to be presented this evening. So I want to state very clearly that it is unfortunate the time and cost to prepare, administer, and eventually analyze this data has been wasted to some degree with a tainted survey. And there's other concerns from non-pickleball residents who do not believe town resources should be mainly allocated to a fee-based membership, possibly with opportunities to profit, have no way to add their viewpoint as the survey is geared to pickleballers only. Knowing how the town allocated court usage has been an issue with taxpayers, even the non-pickleballers. And one of the best places to advertise the survey is at the Mayfair courts, where players sit around and wait to play or get kicked off the courts. But the survey notice was put up on the Mayfair public entrance gate on October 30th and taken down by 1 p.m. on November 4th. And yes, I saw it go up. So I was there October 30th when it went up. And I did not see it there by 1 o'clock on Monday. A missed opportunity, to say the least, to reach a wider group of Mayfair pickleball players. So if you have one takeaway from my part of this presentation, it's the bias that has been now created and has tainted this survey. So I'll let Ann, she's got a few things she wants to say.
Okay, well, my part in this presentation is primarily to address the timing of the town's decisions on how to restructure court access for the public in the upcoming 2025 season. We have raised our concerns about the public's lack of, or at least equal access to primetime court hours as far back as April, and even presented the issues to this committee here in July. However, despite multiple communications from us, it wasn't until September 30th that we saw any changes posted. And even that was only to increase our court access to, what did they say, 37%. This delay had a significant impact on and effectively derailed the whole pickleball season for the public. They could not reliably plan to play and organize games on only one court and had no ability to reserve a court. As such, that one court was left unused most of the time. Once the results of the survey coming up have been reviewed and a plan has been considered, we are asking the town to engage with the public and have our group be at the table to provide input prior to formalizing any plan. This will be in contrast to last year, where decisions were made almost exclusively without public input. Also, it needs to be communicated to the public well in advance of the 2025 outdoor season. Without sufficient time to understand and to choose between all the available options, people will not be given a fair opportunity to participate in pickleball. The public needs to be informed early, several months ahead of April 1st. So that they realize that paying for a club membership should not be the only way to access taxpayer-funded court time. Thank you for your time and for considering the needs of the Grimsby residents. We look forward to seeing the town take the necessary step to ensure everyone has a fair chance to enjoy pickleball next season, since this current season was pretty much wasted.
So thank you for listening.
Thank you.
To us.
I'm just going to ask for a 5-minute recess if we can, please. I'm just not feeling well right now. Can we do that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Sorry about that. Okay, so does anybody have any questions for the delegate? Do you? No? Councillor DeFlavio? Yeah, Laura?
Through you, Chair. I just had a question, because to clarify one of your points there, I was trying to understand, you brought up the inability to organize games, I guess, because I'm trying to understand one of the points that you're making. So were you saying that, and it was quite a while ago, and I apologize, it was an unusual situation here. It seemed like you were saying that people couldn't organize games in advance because you didn't know if the court was going to be open? Like, I was trying. Yeah.
What we're really just trying to say is we need to get the survey results and the decision made by the town early enough so that people can play and organize accordingly, where when information this year was so late, put out and changes were made so late, people didn't have that information. So we would like to see the survey results and decisions made based on the survey. Now, I understand you're not just using the survey, you're using other reference sources as well. But if a decision could be made early, as Anne actually brought that point up, so that people can make decisions on where they want to play and how they want to play. This year, there was a lack of information, which was difficult for people to organize or plan games, and so a lot of people just didn't. Does that?
Were you asking about why you cannot organize when there's only one court?
No, it seemed like the point that one of you was making was that you couldn't organize a game in advance because you didn't know if the court was going to be available or not.
Yeah.
Right.
The only thing I know, and we don't mind answering, the only thing is I want to make sure that I'm answering with respect to the points that we did send to the clerk this morning. And and I know we were told like not to focus on other things. So I don't want to answer something that's not applicable or not related to the survey, which is more my concern. I just want to make sure that we're answering what we can answer.
Through you, Chair, I might have misunderstood what you were saying.
No, I think I know where you're coming from, is that when we had two courts the year before, we had a team, all of these pickleball groups and towns may have Team Reach, which is or a way for people to organize without divulging all their private information, their emails and phone numbers. Anyway, we had one of those as well. So people could sign up, and so I would say, hey, anybody want to play at 9 o'clock on Tuesday or something like this? And we had two courts that we could use. So I could get maybe 8, 10 or more people signed up to play on those two courts. When there was only one court, it's very hard to do that. Because people aren't going to, because it was only that one town court, you have to be off in 30 minutes, right? If somebody's waiting to get on, and often there was. So you couldn't get all dressed and all ready and trundle all the way there. You'd have to organize it ahead, maybe on Team Reach or whatever. You'd have to organize it ahead and at a time where you thought people are not going to kick you off. Because not only can the public, but the GPA could kick you off because they would say they're part of the public. So after 30 minutes of play, if somebody's waiting, even if they're waiting by playing on the court beside, they've asked us to get off that court. So it becomes difficult to even play because you can't organize for one court. You need two courts so that you can get a group playing. And then if you get kicked off, you still got another court to play on. Is that what you were getting at?
Yeah, so that's what I thought I understood what you were trying to say. And I don't want to get too deep into the weeds, but I'm a basketball coach, and during COVID, we organized outdoor practices. And I can tell you that that's the reality of a public space, right? That you cannot plan in advance because it's open to everybody. So it's either public or it's not. So if you're asking for it to be public, respectfully, then it's public. And you've got to play by the rules of the public court. And that means that everybody has equal access to it. It's open to everybody. And if you get there and there are people playing, you wait your half hour. Just like when I went to the courts with my team for basketball, I waited. If there were people playing on it, I invited them to play with us. Right. We found solutions to the problem. But it either has to be public, respectively, or private, or an organization. You can't organize on a public space and expect it to be open all the time, then it's no longer public. All right, so
So there's 4 courts, right?
What are they?
If only one of them, so if all 4 public courts, but only one of them is public, the other 3 are private membership-based club, then is it public courts? There's 4 public courts, but we only got 1 to use as public.
I understand your concerns. I'm just trying to give you an analogy from that is analogous to my life and to experiences that I've had. I get what you're saying, and I agree with you about the survey, and I'm interested in hearing what staff has to say. So I apologize for opening a can of worms. When I wanted to make sure that I understood correctly what you were saying, and I think I did. Thank you.
Okay, I don't know.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay, can I have a mover and seconder to receive the delegation? Councillor Howe, mover, seconder, Baird. Resolved that the delegation from Laura Sire and Anne Orlando be received. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, I would like to take this time to remind members of the public in the gallery and those of you watching this meeting online that the town of Grimsby is currently conducting a public survey on how you want to use the Mayfair Park pickleball courts. We encourage you to take a few moments to complete the survey and let us know how you'd like to see these courts used. Visit the Let's Talk Grimsby webpage to complete the survey before the deadline on November 15th. Thank you. And next we move on to 6A, the pickleball report lifted. Can I have a mover and seconder to get the Mayfair Pickleball Courts Update Report on the floor for discussion? Moved by Councillor DeFlavio, seconded by, I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Barbara. Thank you. Okay, all in favor? And that's carried. Resolved that report DCS-24-54 Mayfair Pickleball Courts Update dated November 5th, 2024 be received for information. At this time, we would like to take a 2-minute recess to provide any members of the public who wish to leave the meeting the opportunity to do so, at which point this meeting will continue in discussion of other committee business. We kindly ask that if you are exiting the meeting, please refrain from engaging in discussion in the lobby as the sound carries and it will impact the live stream audio. Thank you. And thank you everyone for coming. It's nice to know that so many people are passionate in Grimsby about pickleball. So we really appreciate your presence here. Okay, hello everyone, thank you, we are back. We are going to move on to item number 7, museum business. Can I have a mover and seconder to get the museum information report, November 2024, on the floor for discussion? Mover, Councillor DeFlavio, seconded by Councillor Howe. Okay, Sarah, were you going to speak on that?
Thank you, Chair. Janet will speak in just a minute. I just wanted to, I'm sure most of you know this, but this is the first time we have the museum as part of our community services agenda. So going forward, they will be on our agenda monthly and having their business brought forward to community services. So they will have their own section and giving regular updates. And this one is bring forward accession reports and different things as well. So we're happy to have Janet as part of this group. With that, Janet will just give a bit of an overview of her report.
However you'd like to, Councillor DeFlavio, it's all great. Through you, Chair, thank you so much for having the museum as part of the Community Services Standing Committee. We're very excited to be here, and hopefully you'll really enjoy what the museum is bringing to the town. I'm just going to go over a few things, a few highlights for the museum. One of the big things is the museum was honored to be nominated for the Grimsby Business Excellence Awards. The Excellence Awards are chosen by a judges panel comprised of executives and employees from chambers and boards outside of Grimsby who vote on the categories assigned to them. This year, the museum was honored in winning Honoring the Past, which is recognizes business or organizations that have made significant contributions to preserving and celebrating and promoting Grimsby's rich heritage and history. So that was very exciting for the museum. We have some upcoming events that are really great. Fantasy of Trees is starting the end of November. So if you have any interest in coming out and volunteering, the Rotary is always looking for volunteers. It's a great event, lots of trees. All local charities are benefiting through the Rotary Club of Grimsby. And one final thing is in our last section, grants that we are currently looking to apply for. We were very excited today to find out that we did in fact receive the Cultural Spaces Fund grant. We received $88,700, $7,000 towards our permanent gallery at the museum, and that'll go really far to bring our AI assistant to life and our hologram and all the cases that need to be built to show and showcase Grimsby's past. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Any questions? Okay. Resolved that report DC-2452 event, sorry, I'm wrong one. Resolved that report DCS 2451, Museum Information Report, November 2024, dated November 5th, 2024, be received for information. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so agenda item number 8, consent reports, and we don't have any consent reports, so we'll move on to number 9, discussion reports. Can I have a mover and seconder to get the event task force response to notice of motion report on the floor for discussion? And mover, Councillor Howe, seconded by Member Laird. Okay, Sarah, did you want to speak to that?
Thank you, through you, Chair. So this report is in response to the notice of motion that went to Council and was directed to Community Services, talking about special events, the idea of establishing a task force committee and also of looking at a Canada Day long weekend festival. So staff did take that away, and we've had quite a bit of discussion. We've actually been, I think, seeing some good growth in our events and a lot of things happening. Our staff member, who is working very diligently at this, is slowly and steadily growing events such as Music in the Park this year. The Moonlight Movie and Market, which I think some of you attended, was just incredibly well attended, and again, just continuing to growing some of the events. So, I think it's important to note as well, while we run certain events, we also work in partnership with a number of groups with a lot of events. events. And then we also do support other community members who host events, typically on our property where we work with them as special event permits. And it is quite a bit of work, and we find one of the things that does work well is all of these different events and groups often do have their own committees or sort of existing working group that's really focused specifically on the event. And I think that works really well to keep them unique and different, and to keep a good volunteer base, because they're really only doing maybe a few of the events. So it is staff's recommendation to carry forward the way we're doing with having some of that collaboration occur as it is. But we do want to bring forward some of the recommendations from the motion to this table. We thought having it at the community services meeting versus establishing another committee would be a great way to bring that information forward. And we're looking to potentially, or hopefully, bring that report to you in January as a kickoff, as we're establishing some more of these events. In 2025, we will be growing some of our existing events. We're also going to look at a few other options, such as what to do with Arts Walk going forward. We might make a few modifications there. We're also exploring a few other ideas that I'll maybe wait until we're ready to present them to you, hopefully in January. It will also be a really busy year for us next year with the Peach King Center opening. We're looking to do a big grand opening event. I know we're working as well with Kristen team in that it's a seniors club celebration and expanding an event there as well. So we would like to continue to focus on some of those items and continue to grow those, and then potentially revisit further Canada Day expansion beyond that. Currently, Canada Day is hosted by the museum. They have done that for a long time, and we are going to work with the museum team as well to grow that event somewhat, but continue that for the 2025. So that is our recommendation.
Great, thank you, Sarah. Do we have any questions? Comments? Thank you. I'll just comment myself. I think you guys are doing a fantastic job. I've been to many of the events, and they are fantastic. And I really do like that you work in partnership with a lot of the other groups. I know that there isn't necessarily a lot of staff, so those partnerships help. And I know that most of the staff sacrifice their weekends and evenings and stuff like that to bring these events to us. So just want to say that we do recognize that and appreciate that. So thank you. But I really appreciate all the hard work you did this year. A lot of the events I attended were fantastic, so thank you. Okay, so resolve that report DC 24-52 Event Task Force response to notice of motion dated November 5th, 2024 be received for information. All in favor? Okay, and that's carried. Okay, can I have a mover and seconder to get the Community Project Grant Program 2024 recipients report on the floor for discussion? Councillor Flavio, seconded by Councillor Howe.
Okay, and I'm happy to speak to that. The community, through you, Chair, I'm happy to speak to the Community Project Grant Program. So in the summer of 2024, we put out a call for applications from community groups, and they were asked to submit requests up to $2,500 for consideration. This year, I'm pleased to say that we received 12 applications in total, and that's a significant increase from the year before where we only had 4. All of the projects were reviewed by the team. There was a staff team that came together recently to review the specific submissions. And from that, they created the list on page 2 of your report. And all of the applicants were considered to be able to carry out their project as stated. With a few exceptions, there were a few applicants that were disqualified as they did not meet the criteria. They met, the organizations that met the core criteria as outlined in the policy were looking to make a recommendation that they receive funding, and we have project descriptions for all of those. And then further to that, so we're making a recommendation that all of the projects, with the exception of 3, receive full funding, and there are 2 that will receive slightly less, as they were projects that have been included for funding previously. And then from kind of the final considerations for the project, we were looking at the fact that this is becoming, something that we're receiving a lot more calls for funding for, and we'd like to tighten up the submission criteria just a little bit so we can ensure that this money gets used year after year to kind of look to grassroots projects and, lots of opportunities to grow new things in our community. So the recommendation is that we're looking for committee to approve the recommendations of the grant review panel and award the proposed funding as per the content of this report. Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, go ahead, Sarah.
Sorry, I just wanted to add a comment. Thanks, Krista. That's great. I believe this is the first time that we have received more applications than funding. A great thing and also a challenging thing. And I just want to say, of course, I don't think we'll ever receive an application that isn't a worthy cause. It's just trying to tie it specifically to the criteria that we have with best fit. And it might be something that we want to look at going forward to see if this is a project that we want to expand funding for, if we want to do it any differently, if we continue to see such a strong response. But really happy to see that there is a stronger response and people are becoming aware of it, and it's going to a lot of really great causes. So thanks to the team.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor DeFlavio?
Thank you, Chair. Through you. I guess my question is, how do we ensure that the money is being spent in the manner in which the organization said that they were going to spend it? Do we ask for a receipt? Do we ask for like a little report? I know that it's not a massive amount of money. I was on the Ontario Trillium Review team for years, and we're talking, there you're talking about, $100,000, tens of thousands of dollars. Here, I know it's not a huge amount of money, but we do want to make sure that the money is being spent in the way that it was intended. What are we doing to ensure that?
Yeah, through you, Chair, I can answer that question. So all applicants that are awarded funding will be required to submit a final report describing the outcomes of their project and detailing all of their full expenditures, including, receipts, photos, testimonials from the projects. So just looking to kind of look back to see that, all of the things that we awarded funding for did take place, and the proof of having how the financials came out of all those projects. And then just looking to the future as we're getting more requests for funding, ensuring that we are able to, have our criteria be specific enough that we're awarding the right causes. Great question. Thank you.
Okay, no more questions. I just have a comment. I think it's fantastic that we have so many community organizations that have applied for this. And it looks like we have a great variety of different recreational opportunities that have applied. So I think that's fantastic, and it looks pretty equitable. So I think that's great. It's great for our community as well. Yes, Councillor Flavio.
I was going to say, similar to what you said, Chair, it's a kind of a list of a who's who. You see all the great stuff that's going on in the community. So anytime we offer stuff like this, it's nice to see what's happening, and also for the community to see what's happening too, because it kind of draws attention to all these different organizations and reminds people that they're out there. So even if they're not getting funding through us, I hope every organization that we have in Grimsby applies next year, and we can give out $1,000 to each or whatever, or we have to turn people down, because that's the whole point of having this. So, thanks.
Okay, thank you. So resolve that report DCS-2453 Community Project Grant Program 2024 recipients dated November 5th, 2024 be received, and 1, that the Community Services Committee recommends Council approve all proposed projects for the funding amount as recommended by the Grant Review Panel under the conditions of the Community Project Grant Program Policy. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, our next item, can I have a mover and seconder to get the Peach King Center expansion and renovation status update report on the floor for discussion? Okay, recommended Member Laird, seconded by Councillor Howe. Okay, Sarah, are you going to speak to that? Thank you.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So just a quick update about the Peach King Center expansion. As I believe most of you know, and in case you don't, we do submit monthly reports to the Finance Committee that's dealing specifically with the budget, but anything that's more general to the project in terms of operations or project status is something we'll bring forward to this committee, and also be looking to post on our community update page as well on Let's Talk Grimsby. So just a couple of quick updates for you. We did reopen the building September the 16th, which was exciting. We were able to meet that date. Came a little bit close, but we were able to open in time for the ice season that we had said we would open for, so that was great news. If you've been over there, you'll know it's a pretty simple facility at the moment with 2 ice pads and dressing rooms, but it does all the things that hockey needs to do, so it gets us the season, which is great news. The tendering and budget, we're happy to say that so far our project is on schedule and on budget, and the team has worked extremely hard for that to be the case, and just want to acknowledge that work. From a construction update, lots of work has been going on the exterior. I'm sure many of you have seen the parking lot has been in a bit of an interesting state. We're happy to say that's almost finished, and then they will be cleaning the parking lot, but they really wanted to get that work done before the colder weather arrives. I think the biggest thing to note is that if you happen to look at the facility and it was still daylight when you arrived, I don't know that it would have been, is finally the steel has arrived, so you're starting to see the steel structure go up, which is really exciting. I think visually it just really communicates what's starting to happen, and that's exciting for the team. We did want to just note that we are having 4 electric vehicle chargers put in as part of the facility and making sure we're building in that infrastructure to potentially support more down the road. There are a number of images in there for you that are from a little bit earlier on, just to show you how that work is progressing. And staff are now really starting to launch into looking at an operating plan as to how we're going to program some of the spaces and how some of that is going to look as we start to prepare for that new facility coming online in the 4th quarter of next year. And that's all.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the update? Okay. So resolve that report DCS 24-55 Peach King Center expansion and renovation status update dated November 5th, 2024 be received for information. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, our next item, can I have a mover and seconder get the Summer Camp and Aquatics Report 2024 on the floor for discussion. Moved by Member Brabant, seconded by Member Laird.
Okay, through you, Chair, I'm happy to speak to that report. So we had a great summer 2024. We had lots of transitions. As you know, we've had a full expansion project kicked off and everything in high gear. So we did need to move and relocate some programs for summer 2024. So I'd like to speak to our camp program. We knew that we needed to expand into the community to find a space, and we were happy to find a space at Smith Public School. That's where we ran our camp headquarters this year, and we relocated our junior programs, which had previously happened at the Peach King Center, our sports camp, and our culture camp there as well. Our culture camp also happened between the Grimsby Art Gallery and the museum as well. So that turned out to be a great spot for us to host the summer camp program. And we are happy to say that our numbers were still healthy and positive through the summer. Parents seemed to like that location. It seemed to meet all of our needs. We were able to kind of stay on budget. Also with regards to aquatics, we were able to increase our numbers significantly for summer 2024. Some numbers that we have in the report, you're able to take a look at those, but we did see an increase. We were able to open up some more spots for swimming lessons and take some people off our wait list, which was really helpful. We did see a significant growth in our Marlin swim team. We were able to accommodate some heat warning days. And in terms of planning for 2025 for aquatics, we are predicting that it's going to continue to taper off a little bit. We did make a decision last year to see a 1-month delay in registration for non-residents, and I think that allowed us to get more people into our swim programs this summer. And I think we had a lot of positive feedback from our customers that they were able to get into our programs a little easier. Still seeing high demand, and I think, we're doing what we can to kind of, again, analyze those stats from this summer and make all of the things that we can next year to continue to allow people to get into our programs. There's lots of, great feedback and shout outs to our team that we included in the report. But I think just overall, we saw a really successful summer with continued growth in those areas. Any questions in regards to the report?
Councillor DeFlavio?
Through you, Chair, I just wanted to commend all of the kids, the young adults and teens that work in our camps and pools. My kids are too old to do camp and swim lessons anymore, but my neighbors' kids, my friends' kids, I've heard nothing but positive feedback, incredible feedback on the Marlins team and the number of people that were able to participate this year. I'm involved with the Stony Creek Aquatic team, and a lot of those swimmers, it's an introduction to that kind of competitive swimming. So it's a great place to start. It's not stressful, it's fun, and it's terrific that we can offer this opportunity. It's an important opportunity for the kids, but for the people that are involved as employees, I can tell you as somebody who started off working at camp, it's what got me interested in it's the reason that I'm a teacher today, is because of the fact that I worked at camp as a young adult and as a teenager. So it's a great opportunity as an employer for the town and to give our kids in town an opportunity to work. But, and as much as a great opportunity it is for the kids that get to participate in the camps. So just please pass on our thanks. My neighbors, little kids who are adorable, were there all summer long, and I heard nothing but how awesome it was every time I saw them. So great work and keep it up.
I appreciate those comments, and certainly we will share that with our staff team. We also did have our leadership and training program, which had increased numbers this year. We changed that from 2 weeks to 1 week, and we did see an increase in the number of youth that were able to come through that program, and just speaks to your comments about our staff and the great opportunity. Thank you.
Councillor Howe?
Thank you, through you, Chair. Do you see using Smith again this year?
Yes, if the space is available, we have already put in a permit to go back to that space. It did really meet our needs quite well and allowed us to, kind of meet our goal of maintaining. Those are important spots for our community, and we were happy to be in that space.
If I can, used to be that there wasn't that type of agreement, but wanted to work with somebody with the school board. And, when I see that, I think that's the way it should be. It shouldn't be barriers in there. It should be, we're all taking care of the same taxpayers. So, but that's great. Good place for it.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay. Resolved that report DCS-2456 Summer Camp and Aquatics Report 2024 dated November 5th, 2024 be received for information. All in favor? And that's carried. Can I have a mover and seconder to get the relocation of the Livingston Activity Center programs report on the floor for discussion? I have a mover. Councillor DeFlavio, seconded by Councillor Howe. And Sarah, you going to speak to that? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to start it off, and then Krista's going to continue. Krista is our liaison over at the LAC and does a lot of the work with the membership over there. And it sort of piggybacks a little bit on what I was mentioning with the Peachtree Center, that we are really diving into the operational plan for that facility when we open it up. It is going to take quite some time to fit all of the pieces in in a bit of a jigsaw puzzle and make sure we're prioritizing certain groups and activities to make sure we're accommodating all of the different needs. So Krista's going to go through a little bit of something that I know is not new to any of you, just in terms of where we're at today and some of the work that's been done. So go ahead, Krista.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So really why we're here today is to solidify support with the committee and subsequently council to begin the important next steps that Sarah spoke about in terms of allocating programs within the new space. So to kind of give a little bit of a background, walking you through some pieces of the report, in 2019, we completed a Parks, Recreation and Culture Master Plan. And in that plan, it was recommended that the town of Grimsby explore opportunities for a multi-use recreational facility, often called MRF, and it was further recommended that the town consolidate the LAC into the PKC as part of a feasibility study. And here we are today with that opportunity in mind, having kind of looked at the opportunities to grow the program for the Seniors Club and looking at some of the barriers that currently exist in terms of us, creating new spaces within that program. We're finding that a lot of the programs are at capacity. For example, pickleball, which we had a lively discussion on today. We only have one court, and we're finding that we have a 2-year wait list at the current facility to encourage new indoor pickleball space. Table tennis, same thing. Our Tai Chi has grown to 75 members, and in our small gymnasium, it's impossible to grow that program even more. A lot of barriers at the current facility, and we kind of walked you through in the report to what some of the barriers are and what some of the opportunities are in moving and relocating the program to the Peach King Center as it expands. Some of the barriers that we also face are we have a lot of older seniors who are unable to move tables and chairs, and that's something that they've been doing for a lot of years in that facility, and we're hearing more and more that those have come barriers to our programs and for them to be effectively accessing those spaces. A lot of the rooms are multi-use, whereas the Peach King Center will have a lot of new spaces that will be able to be set up permanently for card programs and things like that. In terms of, kind of looking at a scan of what's out there currently, a lot of local and adjacent communities are using their multi-recreational sites to house their seniors program. And it is something that we furthermore looked at in terms of the funding that's available, the SELC funding, the Seniors Active Living Center funding, would be transferable to the new facility. So kind of weighing, many of the barriers that we're currently facing. Also, the security of the building over at the Livingston Activity Center is something that we often hear, people going in after hours alone, our staff working alone, the lack of access to facility staff to help move things around within those spaces. And then, of course, we moved into the opportunities that exist to relocate the program to the new Peach King Center, and the opportunities are endless. One of the things that we've been looking at is we have a membership of currently about 400 people, and we are missing out on a lot of people in our community because we're not able to grow the program and add new programs. I think the last program that we added to the Seniors Club is a watercolors class, and it's become very popular, but since then we haven't been able to create any new programming. And that's that we just simply lack the space to do that. Even in terms of, the building being aging, it was constructed in 1972 and it requires a lot of adaptations to bring it up to current accessibility standards. So there's a lot of reasons why we're looking at moving the program into a new space that can really support the ongoing growth of the program. Moving the current program into the newly expanded PKC will have open availability during the day, which is when most of our seniors programs currently take place. So looking to make this significant investment into the expanded Peach King Center building, we have this great opportunity to have open space during the daytime to even grow those programs even more. So this really creates a most efficient use of the space, using one building and looking at the trend in our community to have multi-use recreation facilities. Significant cost efficiencies, both operationally and for infrastructure. And really, the biggest truly thing is about creating a true community hub where we have all ages and abilities. We have significant upgrades in the new facility, including a walking track, which many of our seniors in our club have indicated they're super excited about. While we know it does come with some holdbacks for certain small groups, we do understand that these new spaces are exciting. We held 2 information sessions, and from those sessions, we have a lot of groups that are super excited. Our pickleball players being one of them, table tennis. A lot of our card groups are currently at capacity too, so they welcome the opportunity to grow those spaces. Tai Chi, another excited group. So that's pretty much kind of walking you through the report and the benefits, and just open the floor to some questions.
Councillor Howe?
Thank you, through you, Chair. Chris, if I can, what are we looking at scheduling? I guess what I'm thinking is we're hoping to open that building up next fall, correct? But it's not our intention to bring the seniors over like at the opening day, is it? Like, can we not let everything kind of settle and let the dust settle before bringing them over?
Shut your mic off so she can answer.
Oh.
Thank you, Councillor. Actually, our intent would be as close as possible, and the reason for that is right now we're going through an important process of, bringing all of our user groups together, our stakeholders, to find out there is a really incredible demand for new space in this building. And our fear is that the seniors won't be able to grow their program. I mean, we currently have a membership of 400, but we have a rather large community and a lot of people who aren't benefiting from our seniors program. And that's because maybe we haven't been able to offer what they need. But to answer your question, I think it's really important for the growth of our community and for our older adults to be able to have access to those new programs and new spaces so that we continue to flourish and grow the club. So I think it's important to get them on the schedule as soon as possible so that they don't lose those spaces.
Again, just to go with that, I guess, and obviously I'm well into that bracket of a senior, and that's going to be chaos when we move everything in. And I know, as I've gotten to a certain age, where I don't need a lot of chaos around me. And chaos is defined by a whole bunch of ankle biters. okay? Like those little parts of our society called our kids. And there can be a little, not disconcerting, but maybe intimidating, but it's very busy, very, very busy. Instead of it, let's make it constructed and smooth and defined, and we can line it up. I think that they'll be a whole lot happier. Now, that said, I'll kind of beat an old horse of mine to death anyways. You know, and I know that you've surveyed them. I know that you've talked to them. I know all that. But I think that they'd be just as happy being down in that building instead of, you know, into here, at least initially. You know, they got to have a time to grow.
And I just think in response to that, through you, Chair, we do know that it is a transition, right? It's a big change. They've been in the same space. They're very familiar with how things go on. And that's certainly something we can take away. We can look at staggered approaches, but also want to emphasize too, the intention is fully to do a lot of work with them in advance and talk about how do we ease when some of those pain points might be. We've talked specifically about those in the meetings and really want to make this as positive as an experience it can be so that they do feel welcomed and a part of the center. And we do understand what you're saying. And I think there are different things that we can do, timing of certain activities. There's a lot of things that can be in our bucket to try to ease some of those challenges. So point is well heard for sure.
Councillor DeFlavio?
Thank you, Chair, through you. I know that this will allow us to expand programming because it offers facilities we don't currently have. I would like to see, if possible, a table that shows existing programming and how it's being accommodated in the new facility or how it's going to be accommodated, so that we can all feel comfortable that we're not losing. I know that we're going to gain. You know, like I know we're going to have 4 pickleball courts instead of 1 pickleball court, which is really important to me. But but I do want to make sure that, and I already know that we're going to lose some programming. You know, like I know that we probably won't have, I don't know, the ability to do billiards, or maybe we will, okay? I know that some of the new facility is not going to have the kind of storage that the old one had. People won't have their own dedicated rooms. I get all that. But at any time, having been around as long as I've been around, closing a building is a big deal. And I don't want to look back 20 years from now and regret, in the same way that I regret the Peach King Arena sale, the closing of the Livingston Activity Center. Very few communities have a dedicated space for seniors. I understand the difficulty. I've read all your reports. I've listened to you. I hope you understand that. I respect that it's difficult to program 2 different spaces. But we are fortunate that the people that came before us built that facility exclusively for seniors. You don't get that in many communities. You especially don't get that in a small community like Grimsby. So us closing that building is a pretty big deal. We need to be sure that it's the right thing to do, and that if there's such thing as 1,000% certain, that we're 1,000% certain that we're not going to look back with regret. Because I wish we still had the Peach King Arena. Whatever that is or would be today, I wish that building that was, 80 years old, or would be 90 years old now, was still around, and that we had renovated it, and that we had turned it into a community hub, and in its location, and all of the great things we could have done with it, with the history that we know of that building with the Montreal Canadiens. I'm not saying the Livingston Activity Center is that. Okay, I know that it's like a brick or block building built for to be functional. But I do want to make sure we're making the right decision. So I trust you guys, but please, let's make sure that we're doing the right thing by closing it down. That's all.
So through the chair, I definitely hear your concerns, Councillor DeFlavio. I know we've chatted a little bit about them before. So some of the work that's going to come out of what we're doing as well is looking at an allocation policy indoors. So that's something that'll be coming forward to you. And we can certainly give some updates and show you what that transition looks like and how those rooms are being used and how we're growing that space. So happy to do that. In terms of the building, there is some more discussions that ultimately have to occur for that. I am looking to do a facilities utilization strategy as well next year, because I think now is the perfect time with Peach King Center online. We've had Southwood Park, we have the LAC, to really make sure we are being strategic before we make any big decision on a building, and I understand that completely. And I think we can do that as well through that work as well, to make sure we're looking at it even broader than just seniors. It is a building ultimately as well, right? So I think making sure we're really certain of how that building should, what should occur to it afterwards. So that work would be to follow.
Anyone else for comments? Yes, Councillor DeFlavio.
I don't suppose we can move the stage. Because we spent, I know that the $1 million that we spent there was expanding the space and creating more storage space, but it's a nice thing to have. Like, I don't know if it's doable, and our plan probably doesn't call for it, but I don't know. I just feel like it feels like such a waste that we put in this hydraulic stage. That is, something you can fold away and put down and not move it somewhere else. But maybe we can donate it to one of the schools or something. I don't know.
We can certainly take it away and look at it. I don't know if we've talked specifically about the stage, but and it might be difficult, as you said, to accommodate in the new space. But certainly, as staff, we can take that thought away. Thanks.
Just to further add, Trevor and I have talked about the stage because I know we do still use it a lot for fitness in particular. So we are looking at options of perhaps a portable stage. It's just a bit of a different setup.
Councillor Howe?
I don't know why but will we have space in the PKC for the blood donor clinics?
We certainly could. We would have to make those arrangements and have those discussions with them. Yeah, I would say we certainly could. And that's really what we need to dive into now, is really looking at all those different pieces. The one thing I will say is we want to accommodate everybody as best we can. We want to allow opportunity for growth. And so it may lead to a little bit of change. If there are certain spots where we can tighten up certain windows to allow a bit more because the rooms are bigger, there may be a little bit of that as well. But certainly we are looking at some of those activities, or is there another room that they could be well suited in as well, and trying to place as many of those groups as we can. And it may not just be all the Peach King Center, right? Again, if there's other facilities, maybe through the conversation something else works as well. But we will be working with all the groups to do our best to accommodate as many as we can.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment that I think it's great that we're I don't want to say prioritizing, but we are definitely thinking of our seniors in town. And we do have a large group of very fit and healthy and ambitious seniors. So I think it's great having that option of a new facility with even more opportunity. And I'm happy to see that you're consulting with them and talking with them and seeing what their needs are and what their future needs are and what their wants are, and the fact that the building is going to be fully accessible, it will grow with them. So I think that's fantastic. Okay, so resolve the report DCS 2457, relocation of a Livingston Activity Center programs dated November 5th, 2024 be received. And one, that the Community Services Committee recommends council support the relocation of the programs that currently exist at the Livingston Activity Center to the new facility at the Peach King Center once construction is completed. All in favor? That's carried. Okay. Can I have a mover and seconder to get the Oaks Road Soccer Clubhouse demolition report on the floor for discussion? Moved by Councillor Howe, seconded by Councillor DeFlavio. And who is going to speak to that? Okay, Mike.
Good evening. Excuse me. Good evening, everybody. As a result of our 2023 building condition assessments, it was determined that the Oaks Road Soccer Clubhouse was in very bad shape. The foundations are deteriorating. There's a lot of step cracking in the block work, and the portion of the building that is an addition. It was a portable, had block cladding on the exterior of the building, which we found had pulled away, and you could basically move the wall with your finger. So we shut the building down immediately and had that block removed. Engaging our chief building official, we had determined that we needed to do a structural assessment with Kalos Engineering, and they had come back and said that it immediately would probably need approximately $250,000 worth of work just to bring it up to being inhabitable. The recommendation, because the building is in such rough shape, that we would tear the building down. Soccer has relocated their programming up to Southward Park, and they no longer need the facility. Any questions?
Councillor DeFlavio?
Through you, Chair. Yes, tear it down. Do we know the cost? Roughly, nothing, no estimate?
Through you, Chair. We haven't done the estimate yet. First thing we have to do is do a hazardous materials assessment. We know there's asbestos in the building, so we have to determine exactly how much is in there, and then that will determine the costs of the demolition as well.
Councillor Howe?
Could we combine that into, because we're the Gamru building going to do a deep six, add one more onto the number and give us a little bit more clout for going out?
That, through your chair, that was the intention of sort of buddying them up and getting a cheaper cost.
Any other questions, Sarah?
I'll maybe just add, Mike, obviously facility is going to focus on the facility. Just want to note, soccer was already in the process of relocating a lot of their operations to Southward Park. So it sort of worked out a little bit good in timing in that we were sort of transitioning them to space. So, in terms of kind of community impact, there really isn't any. There are portable washrooms there that they're fully content with. So there really hasn't been an impact to that program as a result of this work either. So the building really is not necessary at this time. It's not being used, and they were sort of phasing out of it anyways.
Thank you. I think that's good to know that it's not affecting Grimsby Soccer, because that would be an important consideration for sure. Resolved that report DCS-2458, Oaks Road Soccer Clubhouse demolition dated November 5th, 2024 be received, and one, that the Community Services Committee recommends council support the demolition of the Oaks Road Soccer Clubhouse building. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. All right, can I have a mover and seconder to get the Community Services Department information update report on the floor for discussion? Moved by Member Brabant and seconded by Member Laird. And Sarah is going to speak to that. We're making it tricky tonight with all the people, sorry. Through you, Chair, so I'll just run through some of the items. Hopefully you've had a chance to review it, and happy to answer any questions at the end. Our user fee study work is underway. We've done some initial discovery interviews with some team members, and just starting to now set up some stakeholder sessions that will be coming forward. So that is moving along well. Our intention is to complete the study in late Q1 of 2025. It could be Q2, depending just on how some of that work progresses, especially around the holiday time. We always have to be careful with what we do around those times. The 40 Mile Creek Bridge, we have had design work completed now for that to remove all of the ramping and instead switch it to stairs, which is the simplest version we can do. Take out that landing area as well that was at the one end of it, and also reduce the railing height, as with stairs there really isn't a concern of bikes using it anymore. So we're hoping, as a result of some of those changes and also shifting to an RFT, so a tender process instead of a proposal, we're really hopeful that we'll see more favorable pricing. We also know some things have been changing a bit in the market, so we're hopeful that we're going to see more favorable results. So that work is just in the midst of being completed with our procurement team and should be out to the market fairly soon, and hopefully we'll have an update for you shortly with that. In terms of when the work will be completed, we've given a little bit of room for the respondents to
suggest what works best in terms of pricing. We are also limited by some of the work can't be done in waterworks in a creek in certain timeframes. So the guidance is basically that it would be complete at some point next year, but we are leaving that a little bit open again, just to make sure we give proponents the best opportunity to give us their best proposal. So we will give updates as that move along. Parks Master Plan, at our next meeting in November, we will have the consultants coming forward with some of the work they've been doing on this. They have completed their background and community consultation report, so we will be sharing that with you at that next meeting. We've done some visioning exercises as well, and that work is moving along very well. Centennial Park fitness equipment, many of you were able to join us when we did the opening just the other week. Been really hearing great things about this space, the outdoor fitness equipment, but also just the pathway around the park. It's really amazing when you add those things to a park, how much it changes how people use it, and it's really great news. And just a reminder again that was partially grant funded, and we really appreciate that. Krista worked very hard to get a grant from Older Adults Centres Association of Ontario. I'm pleased to share that will go towards hosting another senior information and activity living fair in March of 2025. That was really well received this past year. Our events coordinator worked a lot with her on that as well. So happy to see that occur again. Staff have done quite a bit of work with parking lot line painting and improvements to make sure our parking lots are accessible, and also we're more clearly marking out where some of the parking lot lines are. And just want to thank the Public Works team for working with us on that one as well. You hopefully potentially have also noticed, and if you haven't, I encourage you to drive by and see it, the Casablanca Waterfront Park. We were able to extend that parking lot out to sort of the outer limits of the property that we own. It did add quite a number of spaces, 49 spaces, so really a nice improvement to that area. Eventually that will change depending on what goes on beside of it, but for now that really adds a lot to that space. In the spring of this year, I mentioned the Tearaway Map project that we brought updated and brought back to life, and we are out of maps again already, which is wonderful that they've had such a strong uptake, and we are ordering another 50 pads again, so it's great to see so many people making good use of that. I know for the Gateway in particular as well, they're quite popular. Our staff are working towards accessibility improvements for 2025 goals and are on track to complete those. We completed 2 different tree planting projects recently, one at Centennial Park and one also at Southward Park. Quite a number of trees added to both of those spaces, and we're supported by TD Tree Days. Some images there for you to see. And just touching on special events, again, one of the new events that was added this year was the Moonlight Market and Movie Evening, incredibly well attended, as you can see from the photo as well. And looking to keep that event as well and grow some more opportunities. There's other events coming up as well. We do work with the Grimsby Legion team for the Remembrance Day ceremony. That will be on November the 11th. Just mentioning as well the town tree lighting, Grimsby Santa Claus Parade, celebration of lights. And then also just wanted to mention the Mayor's Levy event, which is something else that we always host on the first Sunday in January. We are going to move that location this year to the Art Gallery Library facility just because of the limited space at the Peach King Center for 2025, with the intention we'll return it in 2026 to the new Peach King Center. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Comments? Okay, I have a few. All good. The outdoor exercise equipment, fantastic. I was at the grand opening. I was there before too. So I'd just like to commend you on that. I think it's fantastic. It's free. There's so many different things you can do, even if you just run the loop, walk the loop, a couple exercises. And, huge shout out to your trainers who, if you actually scan the code on the signs, there is videos of exercises. And you can look them up, I think, on the website as well if somebody wants to see them beforehand. But I highly suggest doing that because it'll take the intimidation away and you'll know what to do while you're there. I think having areas and activities that are free are super important for our community. One of the biggest, barriers with recreation and activity for children and adults is cost. And we know that with the high cost of living, the first thing to get cut is recreation. So I think it's really important to have that. That brings me into, the Moonlight Market and the movies and the music nights, which again was all free. And I think that was fantastic as well. So, I really commend the department on providing that to the community. And we saw that it was worth it because every event was attended, full. We can see by the picture. So I think that's fantastic. I'm happy to hear about the bridge. I mean, that is something that Ward 3 has wanted. I have to say, I'm a little disappointed that what we have to sacrifice is the accessibility of the bridge. I can't not say that. So, but it's work in progress. Tree planting, very happy with. I think that's great. I think it's great to advertise that these are the things we're doing to get it out to the community. And I really recommend that the community look through these reports in the agenda to see what's going on in the neighborhoods and the improvements that we're making. So thank you for all of the hard work that you're doing. So resolved that report DCS 2459 Community Services Department information update for November 2024, dated November 5th, 2024, be received. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so we have no correspondence, but we do have new business. Councillor DeFlavio.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, there's a few things that I wanted to ask about. The report talked about the TD tree planting day. In July or August, the meeting, I asked about the Grimsby on the Lake tree planting. There's the organization down there that raised like $10,000 that wanted to do tree planting in Grimsby on the Lake. I think Bob Friesen was kind of put at the head of that organization, but they want to organize volunteers. They want to do tree planting in a similar way to what we did at Southwood Park and what was done in those two tree plantings that the town has already done in Grimsby on the Lake. So whether that's in Bell Park or Victoria Terrace Park. I said Grimsby on the Lake, didn't I? Grimsby Beach. Sorry, my brain is, I meant Grimsby Beach. I even wrote Grimsby Beach. So anyway, so how can we get that started? Because fall or spring are the best times to do the tree planting. I just transplanted some plum trees and cherry trees at my parents' farm. This is the time of year because trees are going dormant and the water in the ground keeps them from dying, and then the spring is the other good time. So how can we get this started? How can we get this organized, and how can we get that moving so that they can spend that money? Because they sold those birdhouses and stuff, you might recall, to raise money to do this. They want to give that money back to the town and put it within their community, because that was the whole idea of that fundraiser. They just don't know how to go about doing that. So how can we get that started?
Through the chair, perhaps the easiest way to get it started is maybe we can just have a quick meeting and talk about it and understand a little bit more. I think it's a little different than a project I heard before, but if you want to facilitate that or put me in touch with the individuals, happy to sit down and have a meeting, learn a little bit more about the specifics of what it is. We are getting a little late in the season now, so it might need to be spring of next year, but that gives us lots of time to plan appropriately and do whatever we want to do.
It was 24 degrees today, so there's lots of time apparently. Yeah, I think I might have been transplanting too early actually last weekend. The other thing thank you for that. The other thing I wanted to ask about was in the grand old oak tree stand, the fenced off area, there is a broken down wrought iron fence that's been there for quite a period of time. I sent you an email of the original plan that I found because I keep every email from 14 years ago, whenever that project was designed, and I found the original plan. I think it's the fence that says will be taken down on that plan, but it was never taken down. So if you can look into that and see if it needs to be taken down, it's like one of those old fences that you could literally go there with snippers and I could take it down in half an hour. So if you want me and the boys to go, I'll volunteer. It's fine. I could use some chicken fence at my parents' place, so let me know. So if we can look into that and see if that is something that can be done, or if it was something that was missed, that would be awesome. And the last thing I wanted to ask about was, repeatedly at Public Works and in the discussions that we have around planning and development, downtown parking is an issue that comes up. And every time we talk about downtown parking, the Grimsby Lions Community Pool parking lot is always mentioned as an alternative parking space. Now, I want to make sure that our recreation staff, our community services staff, is part of that conversation, because every time I go by that parking lot in the summertime, every time I go by that parking lot where there's an event, it's full. It's full to a point where people are making their own parking spaces kind of full, right? Which I have no problem with, people utilizing the space best as possible. But what I want to make sure doesn't occur is that it becomes parking for people who don't want to buy a parking space in a new condominium, or parking instead of parking being provided by developers. So can you please make sure that you are part of that discussion, because it gets mentioned all the time, but I've never heard your opinion on it. And I know that you probably have one, because it is an important parking space from a programming perspective for the town. Besides the pool, every time we have an event, just the event that was there 3 days ago, it was an important space because the people are going through to see the pumpkins. We have public washrooms there that are, whether they're open, the one that's part of the building is open at night during events, or the porta potties that are put there when those events aren't going on. All of that is part of the way that the public uses that space. And if people are talking about that space as parking for, like, serious parking for people who need a place to park their car at night or for their home, that's a real problem. And you need to be part of that discussion. So if you could talk to our planning staff and our public works staff, because we did the downtown parking study and it was mentioned, but I didn't hear your opinion on it. So I'd love to hear your opinion on it. Not tonight, mull it over, but please provide your opinion in that discussion, because it's a very important part of that discussion. You know how it's used, you know what it's needed for, and we need you to be part of that discussion, please. That's all. Thanks.
Hey, thank you. Is there any other new business? Okay, so our next meeting, the next Community Services Committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, November 26th at 6:30 p.m. And thank you, everyone.
Good job.